Hey guys, what's going on? Zach from All Strength Training. I'm gonna walk you guys through one of my favorite hip warm-ups for lower body training. This particular warm-up is great if you're somebody who tends to be prone to lower back issues, especially with things like squatting or deadlifting or lunging. So I'm gonna take you through 4 different things that are gonna address 2 parts of the hip movement. We're gonna look at internal rotation of the hip and hip flexion. So if we're limited on these 2 things, more often than not, we can run into issues with too much movement happening at the spine, not enough movement happening at the hips. Then we end up getting them to our lower back, and once you get into your lower back, it's super hard to get out of it. So we're gonna start coming down onto the ground into what's called a 90-90 position. So this position by itself will tell you a lot about how valuable this warm-up's gonna be for you. If you can't sit in this position without needing the use of your hand to prop you up like I'm in right now, you're definitely gonna benefit from what I'm about to show you. So, and even if you can, obviously you can't possibly hurt yourself. So what I'm looking at is my goal is to sit in this position as upright as possible. So you see I'm kind of bringing my arm in to nudge myself up, and we're gonna take this back leg and we're trying to elevate it and bring it to the front of us. So this is called a figure 4 contour. So this is looking at the internal rotator muscles of this hip. What I'm gonna try to do is elevate both the knee and the foot off the ground, bring it around in front of me without dragging it along the floor, come around to the front, and then as I come around, my goal is to keep that foot elevated and just tap the knee to the floor and come around. Now you can see that I'm leaning to the side a little bit. If you're limited in mobility, in strength, or in range of motion, you may need to let yourself go further this way. You might even need to come down onto a forearm just to get yourself started. But the goal as you do this is to progress to where we can come up as high as we can and maintain that position, again, getting all the work coming off this hip. So again, knee and foot, wrap it around, come out in front. And you can see I'm shifting my torso a little bit just to maintain good balance as well. I would start with somewhere between 6 and 10 reps per leg. If you feel like this is gonna start to cramp on you, stop wherever that is. If you're at 4 reps, don't keep going, because once you get a cramp going, that's not gonna help you out either. So that's movement number 1. Obviously you're gonna do both sides, but I'm only gonna demonstrate one side on this. All right, so our second movement is gonna put us on the ground into a pigeon position. So a pigeon position is gonna work a little bit more on the flexibility end of the hip as opposed to more of a strengthening drill. So I've got this foot in front, my knee is extended out. My goal is to bring this foot out into as much of a 90-degree position as you can get. Again, if you're fairly limited, it might look a lot like mine does, where my calf and my hamstring are almost touching. But if you've got the ability to, you could even scoot this leg anywhere between here and here. You're gonna square up with the ground. So what I've done is I'm not sitting this way. I'm moving my chest over top of this forward knee. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take, if I've got my left leg out in front, I'm gonna take my right hand and I'm gonna reach underneath this lead arm. So this is called a thread the needle, which is usually done for more spine mobility. So I'm combining a pigeon and a thread the needle into one single drill. So I'm gonna breathe out, drag as far as I can go, rotate up to rotate my spine this direction, and then I'm just gonna, again, hit somewhere between 6 and 10 reps. The pace you see me going is about the pace that I would go. Goal is just nice controlled movements, trying to get as much range of motion here as we can. So again, 6 to 10 on each side. All right, so the first 2 drills that we did were more based on getting hip rotation. The last 2 drills we're gonna do are gonna be getting on hip flexion. So I'm gonna start by taking a seated position. I'm using the wall behind me to stop me from being able to cheat. I'm gonna only worry about one leg at a time. So I'm gonna keep this leg out of the way. This is my non-working leg. I'm gonna sort of bear hug this leg to help hold me upright as I do this. But I'm gonna fully extend this thigh. So I wanna keep this knee extended. And I like to just pull the toes back so that all that's gonna move is the hip right here. I'm just gonna keep this leg nice and straight. I'm gonna elevate up, hold it for a count of 2, and gently lower it to the floor. If you find this leg is sort of thumping, this is a strength deficit where we can't get your hip into enough flexion, so this is gonna be something where you might have to build up to that 2-second hold. But the goal would again be about 6 to 10 reps. Come up, hold for a count of 2, and down. So this is gonna hit your hip flexors. It's also gonna hit one of your quad muscles called your rectus femoris, which means some people, because you're also feeling some of your quads, you might get a lot of work dead center in the thigh. Again, if you're super weak, you might feel like there's a borderline crampy sensation about to kick in. Wherever that starts is where I want you to stop if you're not at 10 reps yet. So up, hold for 2, down. All right, so that's our third movement. We just got one more here. All right, so our last drill, we're gonna find a wall, and I've got just a small yoga band positioned around my knees. Now I'm not using the band to flare the knees out like you would typically use for like glute work. We're gonna use this to give us some extra resistance coming off the hips. So I've got my feet against the wall. I'm gonna try to position my legs so I've got roughly 90 degrees going here and here. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna push my left foot into the wall, which is gonna create an isometric glute contraction. And then I'm gonna pull my hip past 90 degrees. Okay, there are some hip flexors that don't kick in until you actually get past 90 degrees. So because there are 4 hip flexors, I wanna make sure that I get a little bit of everything. So there's like a push and a pull that I'm gonna create, and that band's gonna help me keep some resistance. So my head's gonna go back, I push my left foot into the wall, I hold this for a count of 2, bring it to the wall. Now you could alternate legs if you want to. My preference is to just do all of this on one side. I think mentally it's a little bit easier to stay focused. So again, I'm pushing my left foot into the wall, my right knee toward my chest, and I repeat. And make sure you're using a band that provides some challenge. You know, there are multiple different tension strengths on the bands. Make sure you're using one where it's a fair challenge to hit about those 10 reps. But the goal is to get this knee well past 90 degrees and get it in as tight to this shoulder as you can for a full range of motion. All right, so give those a shot before your next leg day, or any time you're finding that something is giving you issues with too much lower back involvement. Could be a deadlift day, it could be doing lots of bent over rows, it could be leg day, squatting, lunging, hinging, things like that. But give it a shot. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you like this, make sure you like the video and subscribe to our channel, and I will see you guys next time.